Good afternoon, welcome to AP Stats. So far we've talked about the homework. If you are having any questions on the homework that was due today, the National Hockey League problem, make sure you look at the message that I sent through on campus. We're going through the practice test. This practice test, the Unit 4 practice test, is on our website. Let's take a look at page 1. Page 1, the answers for 2, 3, and 4 are, first of all, number 2 is letter B. Number 3 is C, and before we look at number 4, are there any questions on either 2 or 3 that you'd like to ask about? Number 4, this is actually a super challenging one, and there's a reason it's on the practice test, not on the real test, because it really raises more questions and has some problems with clarity. But once you see the word random, a newspaper conducted a random telephone survey. As soon as you see the word random, you can cross off which of the options. Which option is gone as soon as you see the word random? We cross off A, B, C, D, or E. No, not E. We're not down to E yet. We can't get rid of E yet. C. It's no longer a voluntary response. You have been randomly selected. So once you see the word random, it's not like, because in voluntary response surveys, they don't randomly select you. They don't assign you a number and then randomly select you to participate, saying that the sample consists of the people who correspond to the randomly selected number. So we get rid of C right away. Now, using random digit dialing during the day. Okay, the fact that it's during the day, this is a little bit sketchy, but during the day, the idea is that we're talking about stay-at-home parents. Well, the idea is that it's kind of assuming that most people go to work during the day. Could be a bad assumption, because a lot of people work the night shift, right? But they're kind of being stereotypical here, thinking that people work during the day. So, when I was teaching my 5th period class, my phone went off. It could have been someone who had gotten my phone number by random digit dialing, and they might have wanted to ask me some survey questions. Guess what I did when my phone went off? I didn't answer it. I didn't respond because I'm at work. Now, maybe people who are stay-at-home parents are maybe more or less likely. I think that's kind of like the assumption in this survey question, is that people who are stay-at-home parents would be more likely to answer the phone, and that could be completely ridiculous also, especially if they're busy with their kids. So there's some real problems with the assumptions here. But for me, the fact that I didn't respond, does that mean I'm not included in the sampling frame? Because under coverage is due to poor sampling frame. Was I in the sampling frame when they got my number by random digit dialing? Yeah, I'm in the sampling frame. So it's not under coverage of the population. Random digit dialing means like you've got a huge sampling frame. The sampling frame is almost the same as the population. It's like almost everyone in the population is in the sampling frame. So response bias is like if it's just a fundamentally flawed design, it's the fault of the engineer or the administrator. What they were going for on this was D. They were going for D. A lot of people are not going to respond during the day. But it's debatable. There's no doubt it's debatable. CAB is the next page. It's like, weirdly, there's no problem 5, and then it goes CAB. So this is just some practice problems. So CAB is what we were hoping for. Any questions on the multiple choice? Now is a great time to ask. CAB. Anything you'd like to ask about on the multiple choice?
Can you go over 8?
Okay, let's take a look at number 8. And I love problem 8 because it, yeah, so why is it stratified? Well, we have a population of people. We've divided the entire population into men, women, boys, girls, and infants. So last period, someone said, well, how are you going to find out what the infants think of your clothing? Well, I think it's that you ask the moms. You ask the mothers. The mothers know what their infants, just by the way that they cry. My daughter's in my 5th period class. She didn't cry very much when she was a kid, but the 2 times that she did cry, my wife knew exactly what those cries meant. One time it was because someone had put some sample clothing on her that she didn't think was very stylish based on what she'd seen in her online chat groups with other infants. She said, I don't want to be wearing this. And my wife could tell by the nuances, the subtle nuances of the way that she was crying, that she did not like that clothing. And so this mega discount chain said, we're not going to try to satisfy the infants and the mothers who buy clothing for the infants. We're just going to go and we're just going to carry women's clothing, not infants' clothing. So those, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question. You asked about number 8. So I said some things that came to my mind. Has any of your confusion been cleared up, or are you okay now, or would you like to ask a follow-up question?
Well, I said convenience because it says that they're mainly emphasizing women's clothing, and then they ask potential customers. So I was assuming like their potential customers would probably be women since they're mainly emphasizing women's clothing.
Well, look at what they did though. This is not convenient. It's never convenient to put all the thought and planning that goes into getting a representative sample of all 5 strata, or of all 5 strata. They must be educated people who did hard work because they not only know about representative sampling, they decided to actually try to carry it out. So they drew a conclusion. The conclusion is that based on our survey, we're just going to appeal to women. Now that might seem like, oh yeah, they're giving into their feelings and that's a convenient thing to do. No, it was the thing to do that was informed by the survey results. Based on the survey results, they made that decision. There's nothing convenient about performing representative sampling. Yes, Val.
The question may have been a little confusing, because like when I read it, I was like, it's like it doesn't like flow, because like it seems like it starts with they picked women, and then it goes back to how they picked women. Does that make more sense? Because
Well,
it seems
keep
like
in mind, okay, so the question is this a reasonable question? Because it seems like the flow is confusing, if I'm understanding your question correctly. Is that essentially what you're asking about?
Yeah, it's kind of like what it seems like it's asking like, okay, they picked women's clothing and then they surveyed like a bunch of random people how much they like the women's clothing, and then the women said they like, or something like that. You know what I'm getting at? Just like the way it's worded.
So a sampling of potential customers from each of these groups. Okay, so yeah, so that's a good question. So first I'd like to address your comments about flow and the confusing flow. Well, keep in mind that it's not unusual for problems to have claims that are meant to distract you and to throw you off, because the educated person knows what to ignore and what to pay attention to. So it is true that this mega discount chain, it would be convenient for them to sell women's clothing because that's what they're good at. They've been doing that for a long time. However, before opening, they apparently wanted to decide whether to go in a new direction. We've done this in the past, but should we go in a new direction and start doing more than just women's clothing? So they went out of their way to perform representative sampling. And then, after all that information, then they decided to carry only women's clothing. So even though you might say, well, they were just systematically favoring a particular outcome, it is entirely possible that they were going through a scientific process here that was really quite reasonable. So yeah, we're okay with that. I'm kind of surprised that no one's asked about number 6. Was 6 confusing to you? Do you want to hear my comments on number 6? Okay, number 6 is potentially confusing because the population and the sampling frame are the same circle. The sampling frame is all 360 cables in the population. The sample is just a few of them here. If they had said, what is the sampling frame? It would have been the 360 cables. What is the population? 360 cables. There's no good question for what are the 9 boxes. The proportion, see, but they ask parameter, since they're asking parameter, that means the answer is either contains the word proportion or percentage, proportion, or the word mean. And so parameter is gonna be either mean or proportion. Could be the mean length of the cables, the proportion of reliable cables, so C is a great answer here. If they'd asked, what is the sample, then it would have been D, the 8 cables chosen for testing. B and E are just there because we can't have only 3 options, we have to have 5 options, so we had to make up something to put in for B and E, you know, just goofy stuff. Any other questions on the multiple choice? The notes at the end, okay, so look, the free response questions here are due on Tuesday, so make a note to yourself that on Monday, have the backside of the Texas A&M practice quiz done. That's your homework for Monday. For Tuesday, do the free response questions that are on this practice quiz. So that's homework due Monday, Tuesday. The test is Thursday of next week. One thing that we'll end up doing this on Monday. We have to look at on Monday the last page of the notes. So make sure that you bring your note packet on Monday, because before we do the quiz, we're going to do a quick episode of statistics in the news, and then we'll take 25 minutes to do the quiz. There's a quiz on Monday. I would study the Texas A&M problem. You are dismissed. Have a good weekend.